Welcome, class, to my U.S. History show. And today we have a panel of experts that are here to talk about freedom and what it means to them. And it's Freedom Week, so this is the best topic ever. So let's get started and let's learn about freedom. Our first expert is Dr. Martin, and he is a U.S. History College professor. He's been a professor for over 20 years. Let's welcome Dr. Martin.
Well, thank you, ma'am. It is a pleasure to be here and to teach these young women and men of the future about freedom and what it means to me.
Our next expert is Mr. Mark Painter, an ex-senator of Maine. He was a senator for 2 terms, and I am so happy to have him here as one of our main experts about freedom.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. I am happy to be here teaching this wonderful group of minds about our history and what freedom means to me.
Our final expert is Mary Simmons, a 25-year U.S. history teacher, and she is here because she loves to teach about U.S. history and what freedom means to all of us. So let's welcome Mary Simmons. Thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure to get to know you, the senator, and also the doctor that has taught for many years as well. I am happy and this is a pleasure. Thank you, all 3 of you, for joining us today. And let's start talking about Freedom Week. What does it mean for us? What is this in our history? And how can this change our future? So, Doctor, what does freedom mean to you?
Yes, I am happy to talk to you about what freedom means for me with history. On July 4th, 1776, our founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence. This paper was a letter to the King of England telling him how badly he was treating the American colonists. This letter was the official notice that America was going to create their own country and no longer listen to the king. The declaration begins with the following words: "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights." It continues by stating that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the government. That is freedom for me.
Mr. Senator, has freedom been so important in our history, in our future, in our past? Does it mean something now? Why is freedom so important in our country?
Well, young lady, thank you for the question. I can tell you that for me, freedom started with history. During the Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln declared that the southern slave states needed to free their slaves in what is called the Emancipation Proclamation. Over the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment were passed. These amendments officially ended slavery in America and gave the former slaves the right that all citizens are guaranteed in the Constitution. But we can also see freedom in what has passed in the last couple of years. We all remember that morning of 9/11 when the American airline plane crashed in the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. That day, the meaning of freedom changed for me as it did for the entire United States. We were free, and we are still free, united.
I agree, Senator. Not because we lost the World Trade Center, our monument, but because our meaning of freedom changed. We understood what that word meant that day, not only because of the World Trade Center, but because a lot of people, a lot of Americans died. Miss Simmons, you've been a teacher for so long and taught about U.S. history and all its meaning. How do you think freedom is so important for our children now, for our children in the future, and even for our children from our past, the ones that you taught. Is freedom that important?
Well, I can say I like a lot of things about freedom. But there's one thing in history that impacted my life. In 1920, women were allowed to vote. Throughout most of American history, women were denied the same right as men, thanks to the effort of women like Susan B. Anthony and Carrie Chapman Catt. We can also see that throughout most of American history, people of different racial backgrounds have been denied the same rights as their white counterparts. With the help of leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, one of my idols, and many other, Congress passed the Civil Rights of 1964 and also the Voting Rights Act of 1965. These laws have helped gain equality in the United States for all citizens, no matter your gender, race, and religion. You see, that is why freedom is so important in this country.
I want to thank you. You have helped me understand what freedom truly means for all of us and what it should mean for all of us. Dr., Senator, and Ms. Simmons, thank you for your wonderful updates about what freedom means to you. And I think we've learned a lot, but there's plenty more. Let's see. Thank you for joining us. But now, let's go to the satellite room because we're going to learn about other things that also mean freedom in our country, our nation, and what they stand for. Like I said, there are many symbols that represent freedom in our country, and we're going to learn about those right now. These two symbols are very important. The Statue of Liberty has become an icon of freedom of the United States. It was a symbol of showing the light and the doors being open for everyone. The Liberty Bell is an icon symbol of American independence located in Philadelphia. The bald eagle was chosen June 20th, 1782 as the emblem of the United States of America because of its long life, great strength, and majestic looks, and also because it was then believed to exist only on this continent. Our nation's capital, the White House. The Statue of Freedom is located on top of the Capitol. Although President Washington oversaw the construction of the house, he never lived in it. It was not until the 1800s, when the White House was nearly completed, that its first residents moved in. After 8 years of construction, President John Adams and his wife Abigail moved into an unfinished house. During the War of 1812, British set fire to the president's house in 1814. And who could tell me who lives in the White House today? Our nation's flag has a long and proud history. It is a symbol of the freedom our forefathers fought and died to preserve. This is why we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. September 11th, the meaning of freedom changed for us. 2 planes crashed into the World Trade Center, changing what New York looks like. Now we have a monument for all those that sacrificed their lives, for all those that lost their lives that day. Well, class, I hope you understand what freedom means, how people influenced that freedom and changed history. So, like I always say, let freedom ring. To my panel of experts that were here to teach us about freedom, thank you very much for all the things that you've contributed for today. To all of my wonderful students that have been listening to me, thank you for listening and learning about Freedom Week. So back to you, Ms. Contreras.